Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Let's Play the Factorio Way. The Timix here, a new LP series coming at you, one that I'm really excited about. Factorio, simply due to the mountain of possibilities, is one of my favorite games. And this is going to be a little bit different. My sort of small contribution to the great number of Factorio material that's out there, and a couple of maintenance things before I get started on just exactly what I'm going to do with this. First of all, the Factorio way refers to the idea that I'm taking the natural philosophy of Factorio, that is, automate everything, to as much of an extreme as I can. So I've got some mods to help with this, but it's also a playstyle approach. It's inspired by some of the achievements in the game already, like the Lazy Bastard achievement, which is about only crafting the minimum amount of items, the You're Doing It Right achievement, which reflects the idea of building more things with machines than you do by hand. And so the Factorio way means I'm going to interfere or participate or get in the way, whatever, as little as possible. Anything I can do with a machine will be done with a machine. And there's, for example, the Nanobots mod is there for that purpose, to let me turn more things over to the machines as soon as possible. And the startup's going to be slow and sort of tedious for that reason, and then we'll build up and all that fun stuff. Now, there's going to be a bit of a different schedule. The schedule's going to be a little bit sporadic with this, and I'm going to be as consistent as I can with it, but a fair amount of stuff is going to be done off screen as I test out how things work, and then I won't be editing out mistakes or anything like that. It's going to be far from perfect. I do want to show as much stuff as possible, but I don't think it'd do any good for me to, show hours of stuff of me just screwing up and having to redo it. So I'm mostly going to show like major changes that happen in the factory, and then talk a little bit about what got me to that point. So it's going to be more like a highlights or a montage type of thing rather than dumping huge amounts of raw gameplay. There'll still be a lot of stuff going on because with the mods that I'm using, it's going to take a very long time. And I'll talk more as I get through the game about what those mods are. But it starts with your basic hardcore mods, which are full Bobs, full Angels. I've never done Angels before, other than a little bit of testing around with this. I've done Bob's mods only once, and briefly. Never got out of Red Science. That's how briefly that was, back in 0.14. So I'm going to dive into the deep pool with that. The other two major mods I'm adding are SpaceX, extending the late game stuff with more rocket launches required and space-based research required to actually quote-unquote win. And AAI, Advanced Autonomous Industries, which adds a lot of things, but one of the big things it adds is some new combat vehicles and the ability to eventually remotely control them. So automating combat being a big hole in what you can automate in the vanilla game, and AAI largely steps in and plugs that hole. So that's going to be an exciting thing. I plan to take this all the way up through basically the point at which my computer won't handle that well anymore, go far into the megabase type of scenario eventually. So that's where I'm heading with the Factorio way. I hope you'll enjoy it. Come along with me, and it's time to get set up. Now, I'm not planning on changing any of the normal, resource settings or whatnot. I'm going to stick with it as it is, other than, what I've gotten in the mod settings to start up with. That's pretty much going to be it. I'm just going to go forward with the defaults and see what sort of hand we get dealt. Alright, so here we are. We have crash landed. Literally, it's telling that us over there on the left, and some more chaos and day-night extender stuff. That's mod stuff. We'll get to that. But I like the AAI start here of having an actual crash landing. Frankly, it would be enough to make me install the mod by itself if it did nothing else. So you're not just set down on the planet and, you know, run around and go do your thing, blah, blah, blah. You have an actual crash landing, fires, stuff is blowing up, you know, which goes away after a while. But now we've got to go and salvage what's left of this spacecraft. And it just sort of gives that little bit more of immersion and authenticity to the standard start. Now, you get a bunch of this outer lying stuff. You get randomly, will get iron or copper, and I reduced the iron a little bit, but typically it's upper 30s amount of iron plates and about 8 to 10 copper. And in our case, it's going to be more like 25 to 30 iron, but still that same amount of copper. So you got a little bit of resources to start with. I've changed some other things about the start in terms of what you get, because you normally will get 3 machines, including a mining drill, and you normally start with a steel axe. And I don't want to start with any of that stuff in this sort of setup. I did add a couple of basic electronic boards, though. You normally get 2, and I upped that to 4. And the reason is for that is that I wouldn't have to do a bunch of more research and get into some chemistry-related stuff and building things that I didn't want to have to build first to get to the self-replication point. It's going to take long enough as it is. It was going to double what's already going to be a very tedious start. It would double essentially the length of it to have to do all that. So 4 basic electronic boards gets us to self-replication. Or, you know, the point of machines building machines, in this case, assemblers building assemblers. The whole goal early on in any lazy bastard type playthrough, you always want to get out of the crafting business, get up to an assembler that can craft itself as soon as possible. And as is the case in vanilla, you know, we can't just build the first level assembler, because they typically have 3 ingredients, but they can only craft things that have 2 ingredients, so we have to get to the second level assembler in order to do that. Anyway, we would have to do, there's our 4 basic electronic boards. You can see we'd have to do a whole bunch of other stuff to get the other 2 basic electronic boards the way it starts normally, so I just went ahead and gave us, you know, doubled with the normal amount that you start with, and we'll be able to get the one up and then do some more research from there. So this looks like we're about done, and I do need some wood here also to start out with, because it makes a lot more sense than mining out some coal. So there we go. Let's see what we have. 27 iron, 9 copper. Okay. You know, those 2 wood I just mined, 4 stone bricks, a motor, a steel plate, which we will not have any use for quite some time. So the first thing I need to do is get enough fuel for the most basic burner tech. So if we check our thing here, we got coal here, and you know, some other spaces. That seems to be the best. Straight shot west. So I'm going to head over there and get some coal going. Now, in order to do that, let's see, here we are. This whole start is desert type, and that's not spectacular for me, because it means pollution is going to travel farther. But the burner mining drill here, I've got all the stuff I need to make that. And I'm going to need about 50 coal, maybe just a little bit over 50, in order to make this happen. So that's not entirely super. We'll go ahead and prime this with that 1 unit of wood. And then as it hums away, I've got a unit of coal. And now I can stick that in there. And gradually, whoops, I'm not quite close enough. Okay, there we are. Gradually I pick up more coal. And, you know, I generally build up the amount in here. Now I'll need to keep doing this until it gets to about 13 or 14 coal. And then I'll need to stop and wait for that to burn through. And I'll come back when all of that fun got. Okay, so here we are. I've got 52 coal, almost able to harvest another one, not quite yet. So it should be enough to get us started. Now we're also going to need a little bit more copper and quite a bit more iron. And in order to build our starting gear, we're going to need a little bit of a couple more machines. In order to do that, I need more stone. So I'm going to head over here and grab this rock, which is going to take me a while. But it beats the heck out of the alternative. There are no stone patches, as in vanilla. You get stone as a byproduct of the mining process, or you find it in places like this. So that's all done. And I've got to look around for ore. I'm looking for sapphirite. Now there's some here. A small amount up there. I actually think I'm gonna hit that one. And now early on, there's a whole bunch of there's 4 different types of ore: steatite, bobonium, rubite, and sapphirite. Essentially, the 4 basic types in Bob's Angels, and each of them is not made into one thing. It's made into many different things by very different processes, etc. So it's all very complex, and I'm sure I don't understand the half of it yet. I'm quite positive that I don't, but I do know that you need sapphirite for iron and steatite for copper at the very beginning, because those are the only recipes available to me in a building that I'm going to get built here in just a bit. And am I getting close here? Yeah, I actually went just past it. I need to go below and... Okay, so here we go. So here's sapphirite, and we can see iron, copper, silicon, nickel, rutile, and zinc. Oh boy, all kinds of fun things. But I can get iron from this right now. So I'm going to plop this down here, and I actually can't get a huge amount here, but I don't need a huge amount. I need to get up to about 100 iron plates. Now the one thing that I can actually build here that's going to help me is I need a stone furnace. That's what we got the stone for. Let's get that rolling. I'll just throw that down here. And the reason that's going to help me is that I need 4 stone bricks in order to build the next building. So I can throw some stone in here and a little bit of coal. And I need 4 of these. But I'm actually going to need more anyway. So I'm just going to get everything I need right now. I'm going to need a total of 17. And I'm not going to get that many out of the stone that I have, but I'm going to need 17 for this whole startup. So I figured, hey, why not build that extra bit there? And now I can build a burner ore crusher, which I need to make anything useful out of the ore. Now we can crush it by hand, which does the exact same amount, exact same recipe as crushing it in the machine, except it takes 4 times as long. No thank you. Now this is a motor, it needs a motor which I can build out of the iron, more iron, and it needs 4 stone bricks of the ones that I just fried. So this is our 3rd startup machine that I'm going to need. And putting that in place, then we've got these. Now I need some coal in these to run them. Thankfully, this requires very little coal, but it does require that you pick a recipe for it. So it's actually technically an assembler if you choose a recipe for assembling. So all of that happens. And then we get, as soon as it has 2 ore in there, it will crush it down and get 2 crushed ore and a stone. And now I can put the crushed ore in here, and for 3 crushed ore I will end up with 2 plates. So it essentially only gives you a 2/3 yield in terms of the iron or copper itself, but you do get the crushed stone, so I'll be able to use this later to make more stone as much as I need. And that is essentially what I'm going to be doing in this part. Is now just sort of, now it's not as much hand holding as the copper part, or not copper, coal part, but I need to stand here and transfer over, and it's going to smelt slightly faster that it will mine in terms of the sapphirite, and steatite's only half the speed of mining. It's much harder to mine, so this is actually going to be the quicker part in terms of efficiency. But I'm going to need to be here for a bit, because I've got to get up to over 100 iron plates, and well, you know, that's going to take some doing. I did originally have I think it was 27, 29, you know, something like that here. So I've got a, bottom line is I need to get over 70 in this machine. And that's going to take a little bit of doing. So I'll go ahead and return when that's... So here we are. Iron has finished, and we're at the very end of this copper operation. You can see stereotype is a harder mineral. It takes twice as long to mine. But we only need 10 plates of it in addition to the ones we already have. So it's not a ton. I've got just enough in here to mine out what is absolutely needed and no more. And there we go. It's finished. Throw the last of it in there and start taking down our machines. Because it's time to do some very, very, very basic burner tech building. There, that's done too. And I want to do this, since it's burner tech, let's do it by the coal field. That makes sense, so that it's close by its source. So I'm going to run over here to the west. And here we go, and I want to build up in this area. Now I've got to plop down a stone furnace because I need to have some more stone bricks in order to make this work. And to be more precise, I need 9 stone bricks. I've got 3. And to get enough stone for it, I've got to make 11 more stone. So that I'm going to have no choice but to craft on my own. Let's get a bit of coal in there, 1 unit. Get that rolling. And the way this works, it actually works out great because I can just barely craft it or bake it all in here before that unit of coal runs out. So now that I've got enough for the moment, I want the burner lab. And this is our most basic lab. A little bit of an efficiency hit, but it can run off of coal. And again, I really like this idea of having, you know, the burner, an extended burner period early in the game where you can't use anything else. Now, just bump those in there, and now I need some vials, which I have to make myself. The Science Cost Tweaker mod here brings us these new items for producing vials, or in this case, the red is the sacrificial electromagnet, and I need 5 of those for my first research, but I like these new options, the electromagnetic core and electromagnet coils, and I just simply mean new compared to vanilla, of course. This mod has been around for a while. But I like the idea of not using turrets and plates and gears and, you know, things like that, firearm, ammunition, whatever, as your items to produce your science with. I like having dedicated science options that aren't duplicates of something else. And also this does increase the cost of high-end tech somewhat, and I'm not at all opposed to that. So we just go ahead and we're going to need 5 of these. I'm just going to go ahead and take a look here. We want the basic automation because that's going to continue us down the burner path. 1, it's super cheap, but 2, it's going to get us out of crafting because we can get a burner assembling machine, and then we can have the burner inserter do some things for us. So that's where I need to go next. And as soon as these get finished, we can start loading them in here and progressing in that direction. So our first research coming on the way as soon as these wrap up. And you can see I've used just about all the copper for this. So I needed every last bit of that copper. You know, 1 fewer wasn't really a possibility. So needed all the copper that I built, mined out, smelted, as it were, to get this rolling and get these first couple of buildings built. Still have some more iron, but we're going to be using that, and of course almost out of coal right now. I don't want to worry about any more research. Won't be a while till we're getting to that. So now I can build the first burner assembly machine, or I can once I get the bricks out of here. Now I can build it. Boom, boom, boom. Throw that up over here. Okay, so now what are we going to want? Well, I'm going to want a few things. One is I want a chest for this next section. And so I can put a unit of coal in there, and you can see we're continuing to knock it down on that. I only want 1 chest. I'm going to want a couple of burner inserters and a few of the basic transport belts are the other things that I want. So the burner inserters, I need motors and iron plates, and motors need iron gear wheels. And I want a couple iron gear wheels for the transport belts as well. So I'm going to want 4 of the iron gear wheels to get this rolling, so I can switch to that. Get those motors done, 2 of those. Alright, let's get those burner inserters finished. Continuing to switch the stuff out of here so I don't have to craft it myself, of course. There we are. And we can just change the recipe and automatically put that in my inventory, so that's a little shortcut. And going to need a couple of these jobs done, total of 4 basic transport belts also. You can see I've got 3 iron plates left after all of this. So I didn't exactly overshoot the mark on that either. And I'm down to my last unit of coal, which I'm going to use in a moment. Okay, so now what's the point of all this? Well, I'm going to throw down my coal miner here. And then I'm going to throw down the transport belts, like so. Put this in here, and storage chest. Now what the idea of this is about as basic of a setup as I can think of, where coal is self-sufficient. Meaning, I throw the coal in here to prime it. And as soon as that comes out now, it's going to feed into here. So now the inserter is running, and now it's going to start loading it into the coal drill. And like most things, I think, or possibly all of them, things that use coal, they want 5. So they'll load up to a total of 5 units of coal in here. And then as that goes along, soon, eventually you're like, well, we've got enough coal, we've got our 5 satisfied, we've got our burner insert, okay, now it's going to come over here. Now this burner insert is going to load itself, and then when it's done with that, it's going to load into the chest. And so all I have to do is stand here and wait, literally, stand here and wait for I get enough coal up for me to complete the next section that I need to do. And then if I ever want to turn this off, like let's say I've got enough coal, well, I don't have to do it, like I don't have to tear all this up. All I have to do is just, turn the burner inserter. And now it's not going to run anymore. Like if I emptied the coal out of here, or I just, like for this, I'm just going to let it, I could just let it run out, and then when it runs out, it stops running, I can turn this thing to the side, grab the coal out of there, and away I go. So I don't have to do any, any particular machinations with it. I don't have to move anything or pick anything up. All I got to do is turn these to the side, and we're done. So that's going to do it for our startup. And the next section, next production area, we're up to basic burner tech. The next production area will be up next time on Let's Play the Factorio Way. Hope you're enjoying it. And I'll be back soon. Thanks for watching.